Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, a place where industry experts and business leaders share their road to success, startup stories, and how technology has transformed their business, their life, and even world. Now, as regular listeners will know, I'm passionate about sharing as many inspiring tech stories from all over the world, and I think we've had guests now in over 75 different countries, all of which I think proves that technology really works best when it brings people together. And today, I want to turn my attention to Nigeria and how tech is in fact transforming the entire continent. Because I recently came across a company called AFEX, and they're building a physical and technology-enabled infrastructure for the continent's commodity sector to provide access to markets and unlock capital for smallholder farmers, processors, and export operations. But I don't want to reveal any spoilers here. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Nigeria, where I'm going to introduce you to today's guest. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Neil. My name is Akinyink. It's a very, very complex Nigerian name, which is very, very typical of names you get from Nigeria. It's a compound name, basically broken into two parts, Akin and Yinka. It could stand alone, so you could actually refer to me as Akin or Yinka or Akinyink. And it has some interesting meanings, which is very, very key to our generational line, especially for males in the family. So that's my name. Born in Nigeria, spent my early childhood in Nigeria and having a lot of diverse experience here, right? Currently at AFEX, what we do and what I do for AFEX is I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer. Basically, we're building an ecosystem that promotes commodities trading, leveraging on price discovery, price transparency, to build a system where we could be the reference point for commodities across Africa. We've been in operations for about 6 years now, 6 years and counting. And we started in Nigeria when there were a lot of things that were not in place. If you're conversant with the African economy, you realize that there are a lot of infrastructural gaps that makes it very, very difficult to leverage technology to build a lot of solutions for everyday problems that people face. So for the past 6-7 years in the business, we've been trying to build infrastructure and then leverage technology on that to ensure that we have solutions for the vision we're chasing as a company.
I love that. And I'm curious, if I was to take you back in time, can you remember where your personal passion for technology came from and solving real problems with technology, and ultimately what put you on the path you're on today? Or should I say, what was your origin story?
So for me, I've always been a very, very technical guy.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when I was in high school, technical drawing was a mandatory course, and I so much loved it. Playing with my drawing board and compasses and everything to get technical. It just makes sense, right? When things are very, very logical, you can always make sense of it. And I think that's one of the things that's really, really attracted me to tech. So over the years, I've always wanted to be an engineer, and that's what I built my career in. So all through high school, I focused on the sciences to ensure that I'm well-grounded there. And for my first degree, I went to a very, very good school to study computer engineering. I remember there we were introduced to some very, very basic C++, quick basic programming languages. So it was very, very interesting, but you could follow the logic to come up with a solution, right? Hello world, that's always the first programming language everybody comes up with, yeah? And from there, it's been one passion after the other that I've been chasing and looking out to put out there across tech. When I completed my first degree in the university, I joined a telecommunications company, and I was able to work as a core engineer on the platform, being able to put in solutions there. So all this has been building up to where I am now, and now we're able to add value into the ecosystem. I'll say my upbringing was very, very fundamental to my love for tech and the sciences as a whole.
And of course, it was that path that would lead you to AFEX. So can you tell me a bit more about the story behind the company and the problems that you set out to solve with technology too?
It's an interesting one, right? Because, and which was what the reference I made earlier to infrastructural gap in the continents, right? So when you look at globally, when you look at commodities trading, in the developed world is about technology, right? Having a fancy trading system, and traders, financiers all over the world could connect to the system, take position, go long or short the system because the technology works and there's connectivity. So in 2012, 2013, the founding investors in the company wanted to find and what we're looking for ways in which they could push out impact across the continent, right? Because in Africa, there are a lot of smallholder farmers who you typically categorize as part of the poorer people on the continent. We believe that was a place where we could easily add value. So the idea then was to set up a commodities exchange, being able to unlock financing for smallholder farmers and create a direct access to the markets for them where there's incremental value for them, and then they can get all the benefits traders and middlemen would have otherwise earned. So when we started the business then, we thought it was going to be a technology-driven solution. So we made a $7 million bet on technology. Yeah, $7 million.
Wow.
Yeah, on technology. I wish we knew better. We would have reversed the hand of the clock and done something else. It was a loss. We lost that bet. Because we discovered that, which is one of the things that forms one of the key things I believe in businesses, right? For technology to work and for it to be efficient, there needs to be that physical infrastructure that ensures that technology could seamlessly ride on the back of it. And the infrastructure we're talking about here has to do with direct access to smallholder farmers, right? So you're talking about warehouses, you're talking about logistics operations, you're talking about motorable roads, you're talking about standards and processes, which were key infrastructure that were missing across the ecosystem. So when we made the bet and we lost, we had to go back and now start building from base, right? So when we started the business, then we tried using some generic business solutions, tech solutions that is not as expensive as $7 million, but you can make do by the day, right? So we started using some of those to drive our operations then. 3 years into the operations in Nigeria, we started in 2014 in Nigeria. By 2017, because we've invested so much in infrastructure, it became apparent that the off-the-shelf solution we were using as technology enablers for the business couldn't sustain our operations because it couldn't operate at the operational level of efficiency we needed to get to. It wasn't robust enough to capture the kind of data and information we would need to do. So in 2018, as a business, we made the decision to build our technology solution in-house. So we reorganized the organization because we understood the physical process enough to know what to build on the back of it. So we set up the business. We started the tech team with about 4 people. And I remember building the first solution we had then. It was very interesting because we had 2 guys out of school then that were like fresh engineers on our team. So myself and my colleague would focus on designing the processes, the operational flow, the flow charts, and everything that you can now build the code on. And then the team from school will now develop the code base for it. It was an intensive and rigorous process and journey for us. But after about 7 to 9 months of working rigorously day and night, we were able to roll up our first solution, which we labeled Workbench. And since then, we've built on that year in, year out, that we now have a complete suite of enterprise resource management that we use to drive operational efficiency. And to give you a metric to contextualize that, when we started as of 2016, 2017, when we want to make payments to a small holder farmer that is trading on our platform, it takes nothing less than 7 days to complete that transaction. From the time you receive the commodities into your warehouse and you make payment to the smallholder farmers. Guess what? Today, we process transactions in less than 1 hour.
Wow.
And the team is looking at how do we increase the efficiency of that to below 30 minutes, right? And that's all because we've been able to develop the technology to support the infrastructure we have in-house on the back of that.
That is incredible, inspirational as well. And one of the things that put you on my radar was I was reading about how you're building the physical and technology-enabled infrastructure for the continent's commodity sector to actually provide access to markets and unlock capital for things like smallholder farmers, processors, and export operations. And that is a really big thing over there, isn't it?
It is. It's huge.
Yeah.
Africa is poised to feed the world in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And the good thing is coming from a very, very low base, low productivity, loads of arable lands that are not yet being farmed, low investments in research and development, right? So there are a lot of opportunities in the country, across the continent, that could be leveraged on. And the gap has always been infrastructure, which a lot of players are now focusing on. So in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see a lot of attention across the agricultural infrastructural ecosystem, and then you see some innovative technology solutions that will come out of that.
It's incredible. And if we were to take a look under the hood, just for the techies listening, can you tell me more about the technology that's making all this possible?
So we have 3 key systems that we use, right? And so on one side, we have the workbench solution that I spoke about, which is driven basically, we use Python for the development with a robust database, and our solutions are all housed in the cloud. We use cloud systems for it, right? I think the world has moved from on-prem solution largely, and most solutions are deployed in the cloud. So workbench is one. The other solution we have is what we call COMEX, which is, we can call it short for commodities trading platform, right? So COMEX is the short form for it, commodities exchange. And that's where much more sophisticated investors actually going to buy and sell securitized commodities products. The other one we have, which is like a middleware between the workbench and COMEX, because all these systems are linked together, is what we call AFEX ECN, Exchange Processing Network. Which securitizes what you have on the physical side and converts it to the product side on it. All our systems, like I mentioned, are cloud-based. Our technology is driven by, we run a Python code base majorly. I think we sit on over 30 to about 70,000 line of codes conservatively across the system. And just to also give you context, we have a tech team of about 70 people, mostly youngsters below the age of 28, all of them from Nigeria, that are working to keep these systems up and running 24/7. We have a very, very product management team as well that ensures that they keep the coders and the techies on their toes to ensure that deadlines for the businesses are met and we are always online at each point in time.
Incredibly cool. And when I was doing a bit of research on you, I also read that AFEX is leading in commodity data collection and analytics to ultimately build capacity and awareness within the entire industry and deliver unique research for investors, producers and processors, for example. But can you expand on this and how technology will help the continent not only feed itself, but the world by boosting food security, making food production more efficient, and also, I think, closely aligning your company goals with the UN's SDGs too?
So you touched one of the key words I love, food security. Yeah. It's one of those things that keeps me alive anytime I come across it, right? So the beauty of our solution, you remember earlier I mentioned infrastructural gap. Now, one of those key infrastructure that is missing across the continent is access to telecommunications network, right? In Nigeria and across most countries in Africa, where you have the farmers that carry out this commodities production, mostly in rural areas. Now, in these rural areas, you hardly see telecommunications companies setting up bases there, right? So most of the rural areas are not covered by the network system, meaning internet is a challenge and getting information via the phone is a gap. This was one of the things we realized when we started the business, and is one of the reasons why when we designed the solution, we designed it to be both an online and offline solution. So when we're out in the field collecting prices, the solution is designed to be able to work offline, capture information in the rural community where there's no network service or connectivity. And then when you get to a network-enabled area, the system automatically syncs the data to the system. So leveraging on this design and structure, we've been able to set up direct access to over 350 markets in the country where these commodities are directly sold. And every week we get up to over 1,000 to about 1,500 data points on prices across about 7 or 8 commodities that we trade at the moment. And all of this feeds into our database for price discovery and price information. Now, if you were to go to our website, you see our commodities prices that keep scrolling across to give users access to these prices. The other part, what we do is we have a healthy network of producers and consumers of these commodities. So you have the feed millers, the food industries, and co that work with us to be able to procure their commodities. So with this interaction, we're able to develop a system that captures both the buy price and the sell price on our system on a real-time basis, and we're able to expose these to members and clients on our platform at every point in time. So for us, it's leveraging on all this on our technology to reach rural areas and direct to smallholder farmers who wants to sell these commodities, collect these prices, and then expose it to people that will buy these commodities on our platform. And then based on their own analysis and forecast, they give a counter offer. And if the prices match, then we have a commodity that is traded on the platform.
And a few areas that I'm passionate about on this podcast is how technology is bringing people together, creating equal opportunities and making a fairer world. We read about the bad stuff all the time, but I think there's a great opportunity to do good with technology. So on that side of things, can you tell me how technology is driving significant financial inclusion right across rural areas across the continent there? Because it feels like there's something special building there.
Absolutely. And you know, and that's one of the beauty of working in Nigeria and across Africa, because there are so much ways of leveraging technology to create value for people that would not otherwise have had access to it. So for us, one of the key parts of the system we're building is financial inclusion for smallholder farmers across the system. So we've partnered with key regulatory authorities that are able to make this happen through the systems we have deployed in the field. So when we're doing, part of the things we do when we're registering farmers on our system, because the entry points for all farmers or anybody transacting with us is to create a digital identity for them through our system. And in creating this digital identity, we capture all basic information that is required for the smallholder farmers to be able to open a bank account anywhere across the country. With our systems, with our APIs and connectivity to major financial institutions, we're able to automatically open a bank account for the farmers and give them the required information that is required. Of course, all this is riding on the secured network and connectivity we have with the banks and the payment systems in the country. Our payments are done electronically directly to the farmers' wallets and their accounts, and we're partnering with few key mobile money operators in the country where you could substitute the farmer's phone number as a wallet that you can use for paying them for their commodities, as the case might be. So we've been able to leverage this technology and increase more value to the smallholder farmers. So all in all, I think our approach to the market is a means of ensuring that we capture as much value as possible for the smallholder farmers, leveraging technology, which is becoming cheaper by the day, to increase the value distribution across the ecosystem for all key players.
And one of the reasons I record this podcast every day is to share different stories from all around the world and how technology is transforming multiple industries, and not just Silicon Valley, but as I said, every country. I think we've had over 70 different countries on here. So can you tell me more about how the tech scene is continuing to thrive across Africa? Because again, from the outside looking in, it feels like there's a real movement here.
It is a real movement. A lot of solutions are just churning out day in, day out, leveraging on the lean infrastructure that you have with the huge value that needs to be captured in the ecosystem. I was reading somewhere, I think, funds that was unlocked in the capital markets for tech-based system. I can't remember the exact source, but it was close to about $1.4 billion in the last quarter. That came into Nigeria. And that is huge for the ecosystem. Now, you see a lot of young people. So literally every organization I know today always have a summer camp coding program for young children, right? So imagine the traction you gain when those youngsters grow up and they've developed interest in tech. They can apply it to any area of their lives. You see a lot of young guys. So you see across Africa, across Nigeria, a couple of things has been gaining grounds. Co-working areas where people come together and share ideas in open working areas. The increase in mobile money solutions, because to most developers and most tech companies, it's easier to share funds and payments. You can see the example of M-Pesa in Kenya, which has been one of the most successful mobile payment solution across the world, even though it's been difficult to replicate it across other locations. The other has been the rapid integration and penetration of internet technology, right? Now we're talking about 5G deployments across Nigeria. All these combined together has made it possible for youngsters that might have otherwise been unemployed to gain access to an environment and a working space where they could share ideas, develop their skills, hone their talent, and then come up with unique solutions for the ecosystem. And there are a lot of support in the industry to help them put out a lot of all this they're thinking into good use. So every now and then you see companies organizing hackathons and all these programs to ensure that you can bring in a lot of youngsters together and map out their ideas. We did something recently. We called it our own solution. Our own program is called the Code Cash Crop, meaning we look at solution around technology, code, finance, cash, and agricultural crop. Combining these three together, we look for tech-driven solution that helps unlock value and drive it across. And across what is happening in Nigeria is actually across Africa. And you see it in every pocket here and there, where all these innovative ideas, solutions, and drive toward technology is growing and gaining traction.
And I absolutely love that. And you're working right in the heart of this space and seeing what's happening here around you firsthand. So what excites you about how technology is empowering people across Africa, and also the role that AFEX will play in that future too?
The excitement for me is the potential that we could unlock. Yeah. Right. Big data analytics is so huge and so untapped here that you marvel at the potential you could get when you get to eventually unlock that, right? And at AFEX, we're already working towards building an AI-driven solutions for all our trading platforms, right? One of the things you look at is as you're growing the business, as your customer base is massively increasing, how do you ensure that the system that you're designing can catch up with it and be ahead of the curve? And that's the place we see machine learning and artificial intelligence playing a key role. And you can't have this without having that solid base of data to feed the system up and grow and be able to come up with analytics and scenarios that you could play with and work. So those are the things that excite me. I think the potential that is inherent in the market, in the ecosystem, is one thing that I really, really look forward to day in, day out. And the fact that the solution you need could be in the mind of a young chap somewhere that you're waiting to meet, and the potential is just there for you guys to connect and the world will collide and you unlock values.
That's so true. I champion you for saying that, because I think all too often, all over the world, the youth get demonized so often, but they're the future, and they've got so much hope and future solutions, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, we started the podcast today talking about your origin story, what put you on this path. Now, as we come full circle, I want you to look back throughout your career. What was the funniest or most interesting story that has happened to you?
I mean, it just goes to show how trust in the system works for me. And it was very, very funny. So there were these farmers we engaged with when we were building the infrastructure to start a business, right? And one of the value propositions we give to them is the fact that they need to be able to store their commodities across their warehouses, right? And for us, commodities like currency, right? $1 is not better than another dollar bill, right? They're both $1, right?
Yeah.
So this guy brought his commodities to our warehouse and he kept it in the corner, right? And he was like, yeah, this is my commodity, right? And he got all the information that he could use to claim it. The warehouse receipts, the information, everything printed out and given out to him. So my warehouse manager closed shop that for the day and was going home. And lo and behold, this farmer was just sitting across the warehouse. The farmer is like, I'm not going anywhere. I need to be able to see and be sure that my commodity is going to be safe in your warehouse and it's not going to go anywhere. And the following day, the guy was still there. He wanted to be sure. I mean, we're like, we have security, we have everything there. Nothing's going to happen to your commodity. Everything is safe and secure there. And it was very, very hilarious because this particular guy ended up becoming one of our trusted advocates that is spreading the news about the good things we're doing at AFEX till today. And because he was able to experience that, it was an extreme case of him having to be able to do that. But now he's building much more customers and bringing in more people across the ecosystem for us. So it was an interesting one for us then.
What a great story. Love that. And before I let you go, for anyone listening who could be located anywhere in the world that just wants to find out more information about AFEX, anything we talked about today, what's the best starting point?
So for us, I think we've done a good job on working with social media channels these days, right? So you can find us on our LinkedIn platform, AFEX Nigeria or Africa Exchange. You'll find us with either of those handles. On Instagram, you see us on AFEX Nigeria, AFEX as well. On Twitter, you see us as AFEX Nigeria. That's our key handle across that. Or you can just go on Google and give a search out. You see AFEX. AFEX Nigeria, we are expanding across Africa. So we're now streamlining the brand and focusing more on Africa Exchange. So if you search for that as well across all social media channels, you'll be able to connect with us and reach out directly to us on any of those. And I can assure you, if you reach out to us, we are always on hand to respond appropriately to whatever way we could help and address any questions or whatever you have for us.
Brilliant. Well, I'll add those links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. And I think it's worth saying that AFEX was recently named first in the Financial Times ranking of Africa's fastest growing companies in agriculture and commodities this year. All fantastic. But for me, what brought it to life was the story behind the company and your story and the difference that you're making with technology. So just a big thank you for taking the time to sit down and share it with me today.
Thank you, Neil. We're always available, and thank you for having me on this. Really, really appreciate sitting with you and having this conversation.
I just love how AFEX is driving significant financial inclusion across rural areas across Africa and developing the largest database of credible farmer data, complete with bank verification numbers, land coordinates, and boosting smallholder farmer productivity and prosperity, delivering significant impact right across the agricultural sector by leveraging technology. And stories like this are why I record the podcast every day. So why don't you share your story with me? I know you have unique experiences and insights, and I want you to be part of this conversation. And there are many ways that you can contact me. Simply email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you would like to slide into my DMs and send me an audio message on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, you can find me at Neil C. Hughes. But a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger. you.